Now that F9 has been announced, fans are over the top excited, but also a little bit confused. After all, didn't we see Han Lu meet his end all the way back in Tokyo Drift? I know the timeline can be a little bit confusing, but F9 takes place well after the events of that movie, so where did Han come from? We'll talk about Han's surprisingly complex backstory and how he might have survived so far in this fictional Fast and Furious universe. Did you know that the first time we saw Han wasn't in the Fast and the Furious? If you missed his first appearance, I'll tell you where to look to catch up. Justin Lin has directed quite a few films in the franchise, including Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious, Fast 5, and Fast and Furious 6, as well as the upcoming film F9. But the character Han actually originated in a different movie he directed called Better Luck Tomorrow. Both Justin Lin and actor Sung Kang have confirmed that Han is the same person in both this movie and the Fast and the Furious franchise. But in the first draft of the script, he was nothing like the Han fans are familiar with. According to Lin, he knew Kang was perfect for the role of Han, but convincing him to take the part was not easy. At first, the character was written as a stereotypical wannabe thug, and Kang was desperate to audition for another part instead. But Lin was convincing, and the two of them worked out a backstory for Han that made him more than a gangster and didn't rely on Asian stereotypes. Better Luck Tomorrow is a crime drama loosely based on the actual case of Stuart Tay, who lost his life at the hands of his classmates. In the movie, Han is revealed to have a cousin named Virgil, and they join some others in stealing tests and selling cheat sheets. Yeah, compared to the Fast and Furious movies, this might not be quite as exciting as some of the heists, but hey, it was profitable. The group also branches out into other crimes, like selling stolen goods and illegal substances, as well as making a name for themselves. Han eventually takes the blame for the cheat sheet scam thanks to Virgil's carelessness, and repays his cousin by beating him up. Later, during a robbery gone wrong, the group ends up claiming the life of a classmate. At the end of the movie, Han isn't persecuted for his role in the crime, and it's likely that his presence kept things from getting even worse. And even with Han around, things got really out of control. Kang was convinced the role was just a one-time thing, and was actually auditioning for another part when he was cast in the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. Lin invited him in to read for the part of Sean, but soon realized that he wasn't done telling Han's story. He wanted the character back in action, and knew he couldn't be played by anyone but Kang. Lin created a backstory for the character, deciding that after Better Luck Tomorrow, he fled suburban life and traveled through Thailand and Hong Kong before settling in Tokyo, where he served as a surrogate father to Sean. Did you happen to notice that Han can't seem to stop himself from snacking? That's because in Better Luck Tomorrow, Han smoked a lot of cigarettes, but Universal didn't want that trait to carry over into Tokyo Drift. Illegal street racing is apparently fine, but smoking? Now that's just dangerous. So instead, Han started reaching for snacks instead of cigarettes. In this movie, Han has moved far beyond stealing tests, and is now making tons of cash and participating in street races. But when he starts stealing money from the Yakuza, well, that's when things went wrong. Han befriends Sean and takes him under his wing and teaches him how to drift. It's as heartwarming as it is illegal. Eventually, Han's thefts are discovered, and this leads to a car chase and explosion which results in Han losing his life. Or so everyone thought until F9 was announced. Earlier, I mentioned that the timeline for these movies can be kind of confusing, and I stand by that statement. Even though Han supposedly passed away in Tokyo Drift, he still appeared in other films in the franchise that chronologically took place prior to that film. In the short film Los Bandoleros, Han visited Mexico, where he met Dom Toretto for the first time. Naturally, the two became fast friends, and Han was only too happy to join the rest of the Fast family. They decide to pull off a plot Robin Hood would be proud of by stealing oil from the wealthy and using it to help out people who are struggling to pay their gas bills. Then, in the movie Fast and Furious, we see them pulling off the caper they had been planning in Los Bandoleros. Han tells Dom that the authorities are investigating them, which really shouldn't be a big surprise at this point, but the crew decides to disband, albeit on good terms. When Han leaves, he expresses an interest in exploring Tokyo, and we already know how that goes. Poorly. In Fast 5, Han is involved in yet another heist with the family, and this time he's working as a driver. He He becomes romantically involved with a woman named Giselle, played by Gal Gadot, and they end up on a trip through Europe together funded by their ill-gotten gains. But their love story doesn't last long. And during Fast and Furious 6, Giselle sacrifices herself to save Han, an act which understandably devastates him. I'll spare you a recap of the whole movie, but the group gets their records cleared as thanks for saving the day, and Han decides it's time to finally take that trip to Tokyo he kept talking about. The big reveal in this movie happened during a post-credits scene. It's revealed that Deckard Shaw was the one who T-boned Han in that supposedly fatal accident. Although Han wasn't really in Furious 7, his loss was used to explain why Dom showed up at the end of Tokyo Drift, to retrieve his body. The family certainly seemed to be convinced that Han was really gone for good, since they had a funeral for him, but apparently that's not the case. Yes, somehow Han managed to survive being attacked by Deckard Shaw, and it seems he and the team are back together again. This time, they're fighting Dom's newly introduced little brother Jacob as well as their old enemy Cypher. So at this point, you're probably wondering how Han survived and where has he been all this time? Tokyo Drift made it seem as though Han's passing was a tragic accident, but later we learned it was a deliberate act perpetrated by Deckard Shaw. He was trying to hurt Dom for his actions against his brother Owen Shaw and chose Han as his target. And the way they kept replaying that scene convinced fans that he really was gone. But in all of those scenes, we never got to see anyone really react to his passing. If paramedics arrived quickly enough to the scene, then it's entirely possible he was badly injured but managed to survive. That could explain the fact that he's still alive, but not why he hasn't contacted any of his friends. One possibility is that he doesn't even remember that he has any. Even though the crash apparently was not fatal, it was certainly horrific. Han undoubtedly sustained some pretty serious injuries in the crash, and it would not be surprising if his brain didn't escape completely unscathed. Could this be a case of amnesia? Hey, it's an old trope, but it would definitely explain a lot. Han was trying to stay away from the law in Tokyo, so it's possible that authorities weren't able to identify him. And if Han couldn't remember who he was, then he definitely couldn't remember that there were people who might be mourning his loss. But the one major issue with this idea is that it's been done before in this franchise. During Fast and Furious, we all thought Letty was gone until the post-credits scene in Fast 5. Then in Fast and Furious 6, it was revealed that Letty was alive and was suffering from amnesia, hence why she hadn't contacted any of her family. I just can't see them trotting out the exact same plot device to explain away Han's absence. It's possible that letting his friends grieve was preferable to putting them in danger. Han was not only a criminal, but one who ran afoul of the Yakuza. Maybe he believed that his loved ones would ultimately be safer believing that he was gone. After all, he saw his beloved Giselle sacrifice herself to save him. It's entirely possible that he didn't want to see any more of his loved ones hurt themselves on his account. According to Kang, he wasn't upset when he learned that Han was going to lose his life in Tokyo Drift. He believed that losing Han would have an important impact on the group and cause them to change in ways they simply couldn't if he was still around. So if you felt dumb for thinking Han was gone, don't worry. The actor playing him did too. Maybe in the fictional universe, Han believed that staying away would be helping his friends somehow, even if they didn't realize it. He's clearly back on Dom's side in F9, or at least that's how it appears in the trailer. So if he ditched his friends for years, there has to be a good reason. It's not like he pulled off this scheme so he wouldn't have to share his snacks with his pals. The wreck definitely looked horrible, so it's possible drastic measures had to be taken to save his life. In the spin-off Hobbs and Shaw, Brixton Lore had received some amazing cybernetic implants that made him a powerful enemy. Maybe Han is still alive, but does he have all of his original parts? Or did he receive some upgrades? One thing I'm hung up on is the tagline "Justice is coming." Many fans felt like Hobbs and Shaw was a slap in the face to Han, since Deckard Shaw was one of the main characters and apparently, everyone just forgave him for hunting down Han. They kinda glossed over the whole thing in a way that didn't seem to fit in with the rest of the franchise. Is Han suddenly being alive just a ploy to calm the fan base and ensure a sequel to Hobbs and Shaw? After all, out of all Deckard's crime, that was the one that bothered fans the most. Is Han coming back the only way Deckard can be forgiven and move on with the franchise? Will that be the only way Han is able to get justice? There are a lot of questions surrounding what happened to Han, and I can't wait to see the answers in F9. How do you think Han Lu managed to survive the end of Tokyo Drift? And are you excited that he's back? Let us know what you think and share your predictions for F9 in the comments section below. Don't forget to click subscribe and turn on your notifications for more videos from CBR. We'll see you next time.